I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 39, so let's focus on verses 6 through 9. Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after some time his master's wife looked longingly at Joseph and said, "Sleep with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not concern himself with anything in his house, and he has put all that he owns under my authority. No one in this house is greater than I am. He has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. So how could I do such an evil and sin against God?" Genesis 39, verses 6 through 9. Well, just like the tree of knowledge was to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, so also was Potiphar's wife to Joseph in Potiphar's house. If Joseph can be considered a type of Messiah, and I think he can, his response to temptation surely passed the test. Joseph had everything going for him. He was handsome and brilliant, and despite difficult circumstances, he again rose to a position of top authority. If it seemed unnatural for a 17-year-old to supervise his 10 elder shepherd brothers, imagine the same kid running the household of the second most powerful man in Egypt. Some guys seem deemed for success, but success can have unforeseen downsides, and Joseph knew this all too well. Even in my own career, I've been around a lot of successful people. And I generally sort them into two piles. You have humble ones and you have self-absorbed ones. There doesn't seem to be much middle ground. And sadly, the humble variety is the one that's in short supply. Joseph was humble, while Potiphar's wife was completely self-absorbed. So if there were ever a stud, it would have to be Joseph. And perhaps his experience with his brothers taught him to restrain his tongue. And perhaps those early days in slavery taught him to be thankful for even the lowliest position of authority. But I believe it was Joseph's faith in God. It was his choice to believe that God would be faithful to his word, which gave Joseph his spiritual and his moral resolve. Potiphar's wife, on the other hand, did not have the Lord's moral compass. Perhaps that's the lesson of today's passage. Joseph faithfully served Potiphar because Joseph served God. He worked as unto the Lord. Potiphar's wife could not honor her husband because she had no relationship with the Lord. She simply lived to serve herself. And the types of gods she served were most likely those whose only reason for existence were to serve her. But we cannot escape the reality that there's only one true God and only one salvation, which is found exclusively in the Messiah, Jesus. Consider John 14, verse 6. Jesus told him, "I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me." If we reject Jesus, the only Lord and Savior, right? There is no other way. There is no other truth. There is no other life. He's the only Lord and Savior. The only God left to serve then is the one that we find staring back at us in the mirror. And we could never save ourselves. Acts chapter 4, verse 12 says this, "Nor is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved." Have you surrendered control of your life to the only way? Because believe me, while salvation comes exclusively through Jesus, it's offered liberally to anyone who would turn from their sin and receive it. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.